Gabriel Sherman at Vanity Fair is reporting that Donald Trump is considering firing pretty much everyone who works with him at the White House. So look, the details of the story are fascinating, and the sources have not been named. There were 5 Republican sources who spoke to the reporter here and essentially indicated that Trump feels empowered now, that certain people have left. Gary Cohn has left, of course, Hicks has left. Some of the people who kind of keep him a little under control are either leaving or have already left. And so he feels as though maybe the best way to go about things is just get rid of everyone. Okay. So one of the sources who spoke to Vanity Fair was quoted as saying the following, that Donald Trump was speaking to him and said the following: I'm doing great, but I'm getting all these bad headlines. So I want to stop here for a second. But you're not doing great. And that's the thing, like he's just completely unaware. Like he lacks any and all self-awareness. He is unable to reflect accurately on his performance, on his life choices.
Right. I'm winning. Why does the scoreboard say otherwise?
It's exactly it. So, and by the way, that is part and parcel of the story and why he keeps changing staff. Because he keeps thinking, well, it can't be me. I'm a very stable genius, right? So it must be something else. It must be that the press is biased against me and they're fake news. And it must be, but the schmucks around me who are screwing it up. Because the one thing I know for sure is that it's not me. Because he is obsessed with himself.
This is the character trait that millennials get stereotyped with on a regular basis. And it's just funny because here you have a man in his 70s. He's in his 70s, right?
Yeah, he's a dotard.
Okay.
He's a dotard.
Okay, but anyway, completely lacks self-awareness. But let's move forward.
Is that what they say about millennials? They lack self-awareness?
That they lack self-awareness and that they refuse to take, like they think so highly of themselves and refuse to take personal responsibility and all that. Because they've been given trophies their entire lives.
That's it.
Yeah.
So another source told Vanity Fair, Trump is frustrated by all these people telling him what to do. Yeah, it's almost as if we live in a country that's supposed to have checks and balances, but nonetheless. Trump is in command. He's been in the job more than a year now. He knows how the levers of power work. He just doesn't give a fuck.
Beep.
Yeah. So, all right, goes on. Trump is red hot about Kelly trying to control him. So it seems as though Kelly might be one of the first to go. Trump is going for a clean reset, but he needs to do it in a way that's systemic, so it doesn't look like it's chaos.
No, it won't look that way at all.
Yeah, what setting are we on now? That's my question. It's like he's like it's gonna, you know, I'm gonna avoid chaos. I feel like that's been the default setting.
Yeah, that's too late, okay. But no, as he told us in a tweet a couple of days ago, it's not chaos, it's high energy. That's the setting we're on, high energy. So I think that he's actually partly right. So let me give a couple of pieces of context here. First of all, in all these stories, of course I'm not in the camp of mainstream media's fake news. I'm in the camp of, hey, you know, trust but verify, and you know, they have their establishment bias and all that stuff. So when they just say, hey, we have sources inside the White House, I'd love to see if it pans out and it's true or not true. And in this case, they have 5 Republican officials. That's a lot, 5, right? And has Gabriel Sherman done a pretty good job of being accurate on earlier stories? And the answer is yes. So this is likely to be true, okay? And with Trump, he might have told those 5 Republicans that, and then changes his mind tomorrow. So you never know in that sense. But for the moment being, I think this appears to be true. And in the part that Trump is right about is, of course his chief of staff, John Kelly, is trying to control him for 2 reasons. One, he's the chief of staff, so he sets your schedule. So if you get confused because you're a child, like, oh, dude, I can't believe Kelly's trying to set my schedule. That's his job. That's his job to do that, right? And control what goes into the White House and what doesn't go into the White House. So you need someone to do that job. But since that's a nice Freudian slip. Since Trump has such low IQ, he doesn't understand that simple concept. But there is a second part to it, which is also true. That John Kelly, because he's a normal, rational human being, not because he's particularly smart or certainly not correct, but overall, since he's a normal person, he thinks this guy is an unbelievable moron. So I've got to try to just nudge him in the right direction. Otherwise, we're going to go from high energy to high chaos nonstop, nonstop, right?
And the reason that Kelly's there is because his predecessor, Reince Priebus, just kind of let anyone walk in whenever. It is a direct response to a previous chaos that still seems to yield the perception of chaos itself. I don't see how maybe going back to it, he feels like now that he's familiar with how it works, he can manage things, but I don't see any evidence.
Yeah, I mean, I think if the captain of the Titanic would have just fired the staff a little sooner and all together, I think people would have been a lot calmer.
Yeah.
As it went down.
Yeah, that's a great point.
But the only thing I don't have any affection for any of those people he's firing. The only thing that worries me is that John Bolton is going to maybe make his way
great point.
back into, and then we're right back in. Then that guy's a maniac. That's
And Trump's been lunching with him.
It's so bad.
So it seems like he's shopping around for some replacements, and Bolton might be consideration or is a consideration. But one thing that I do want to point out, though, look, the sources of course are not named, but. I am curious about where these Republican sources fall on the issue of these tariffs, because Trump is getting a lot of heat from some establishment Republicans who don't like the tariffs. So I'm not saying that I wouldn't believe any Republican who is against the tariffs saying these things, but I have a feeling that some want him out. And
no, so Anna, your instinct to check the motivations of the sources is perfect, and I wish that more journalists would do that instead of going, oh, a source says it must be true, I'm writing it down, right? The flip side to that is John Kelly in this case is against the tariffs.
Right, that's true.
And so most of the establishment is with John Kelly, and hence they wouldn't want to undermine him. Now that doesn't mean that there aren't other Republicans, to your point, Anna, that are for the tariffs and would love to undermine John Kelly. And so you always have to keep that in mind as to where people are coming from. I'll tell you this, if he gets rid of John Kelly and McMaster, who's the other guy that the National Security Advisor he's trying to get rid of, those are the first two up. Anna's got a great twist for you guys on who's next after that. But if those two go, and McMaster's already basically gone, they've pre-announced it, this whole idea of Trump is, I got this, man. I've been here a year. I've got this figured out. It's never been high energy. It's always been chaos. It's going to go from chaos to insanity, and it's going to devolve way quicker. And he's going to make horrible decisions, completely unchecked. Let alone, again, the last layer of the story will be who's coming in to replace them. Part of that is just one quick note on what Jimmy said. They're thinking of Bolton in one of those positions. That guy's a neocon, loves war, might be literally the #1 warmonger in the country. So if he comes in, batten down the hatches for the pandemonium that might break out. And by the way, I'd like to thank Tucker Carlson for doing the country a little bit of a favor, a sentence I never thought I'd say. But earlier in the week, I thought about covering this story, didn't, but I wish I had, because now I know how important that little interview was. Tucker Carlson did an interview with John Bolton and kind of embarrassed him publicly about how he was wrong about the Iraq war.
Yeah.
And Bolton was furious. And there was like this wonderful, awkward moment on Fox News. And I now realize, based on this reporting, Bolton's auditioning for the position by going on Fox News when Tucker Carlson torpedoes him on the issue of the Iraq war, which Trump kept saying was a bad idea during the campaign. Man, he put a hurting on Bolton there. That's why Bolton was so mad.
Yeah.
So
was
I hope
Tucker
that worked.
Carlson right about the Iraq war?
Look, Tucker Carlson, I don't remember the whole history of if he fell in with the Pat Buchanan crowd, but I think he might have. Either way, even if he's faking it today, I'll still take it, because the last guy in the world I want in that White House is John Bolton.
I just never know with Tucker Carlson, because I can't tell if he honestly believes all these tariffs. I've been talking to Haas about this as he writes his pieces in the morning, but I can't tell if Tucker Carlson earnestly believes all the things he's saying, or if he was just so petrified by the feeling of losing his job once after being publicly embarrassed in the wake of the Crossfire Jon Stewart era, when he was kind of flailing in nowhere, and now he's back at the plate. He's grateful to have dinner every night, and so he's just giving all of these lines, and then moments like this come up where Tucker just says, you know what, for 6 minutes, I'm just gonna just gonna win an argument on my terms, and that's it. I don't know.
I just think he puts his finger in the wind, and it's blowing right now. The base that are non-interventionists, right? And Trump won by insulting Jeb Bush over the Iraq War. So, and everybody, including Krauthammer, said that's a big mistake to do that. It wasn't a mistake. Everybody hated the Iraq War, right? And they hated that we got lied to about it. Even the people who were for it hated that we got lied to about it. So I think that's what Tucker Carlson is doing. He knows that the people watching, they're on his side, or he just takes the side of the audience.
Right.
All right, so according to Vanity Fair, next on the departure list are Jared Kushner and Ivanka Trump.
Damn, Trumps.
Yeah. So look, and again, part of the problem and part of the reason is because of security clearance issues, and Trump just doesn't like the negative headlines and doesn't want to attribute those negative headlines to his own behavior, but rather the people around him. But he's still super loyal to his family. So according to these sources, he's trying to find a way to get rid of them where they're not going to be embarrassed and they would agree to it. So for instance, one scenario being discussed is that Kushner would return to New York to oversee Trump's 2020 re-election campaign with his ally, Brad Parscale. Also, Ivanka is likely to stay on longer, perhaps through the summer, before decamping home to New York to enroll her children in a Manhattan private school.
Oh man, private school. Who'd have thought they'd go to private school?
She's been fighting very aggressively for women's rights, though. Yeah, she's gotten a lot done.
Yeah, very aggressive. I love how they described the Jared Kushner situation. They said he's wandering around the White House trying to find something to do because he doesn't have security clearance. So good. He's trying to save face by being like, no, well, yeah, listen, the coffee needed to be refilled. It did. Yeah, it did. I mean, somebody had to do it, right? And so they say that the campaign job might be quote unquote soft landing for Jared. Oh, I love that.
You just picture him like trying to use his key card to get in places. It's out. Oh, I must have demagnetized. Yeah, I must have had it too close to my credit cards. With the disappearance of this, to say that he's going to do a clean reset of his cabinet, NPR reported earlier this week that the percentage of high-level appointments and people in the White House, 43% of them are gone.
In 1 year.
In 1 year.
Unbelievable.
We're almost halfway there.
Yeah, that's unprecedented.
So it's a clean reset. We've done like half a reset. Now we just need to fully unplug and plug it back in.
And remember, there are still positions that have gone unfilled, especially with the Department of Homeland Security. Positions that are important for the national security of the country. Trump hasn't made a lot of those appointments yet, and I mean, he's gonna have. I don't know. It is chaos. It is chaos. Like he doesn't want to do the job. He just doesn't want to do the job. And right now he's going to have all these vacancies within his own cabinet. He hates Rex Tillerson too. I don't know when Rex Tillerson's going to be gone.
The ExxonMobil deal is dead. Rex is. I said this earlier in the week. TikTok. He's going to leave any minute now because he doesn't want to be there. He's like, I came here to lift the sanctions and get that $9 trillion deal with Exxon done. It's not happening. What the hell am I doing here? So I'd be shocked if he didn't leave soon. So who's going to replace these guys? So we talked about Bolton's one possibility, but he wants to bring back his old pals, David Bossie, and most importantly, Corey Lewandowski.
Oh, wow.
That's what it's like. Have you ever watched a show where like someone leaves to go like do their own spinoff and it fails miserably and they just like come back? Mm-hmm. It's like there was one episode of Seinfeld where like George quits and then regrets it, and the next day he just like shows up at work.
Yeah, that's right.
That's what's gonna happen. So there's 43% are gone. You won't be able to keep tabs on who's gone and returned.
So Lewandowski, Trump loves because Lewandowski does several things. One is, oh, boss, you're so right, boss. Oh, they had it coming, boss. Oh, I tell you, nobody's better than you, big boy. Oh, you got it, okay. And the other reason is, Lewandowski is as much of a jerk and a blowhard and almost as stupid as Donald Trump. Mm-hmm. So they're like peas in a pod, and he misses his buddy Corey. They used to do all the silly things in the middle of the night when nobody was looking in the White House. You just watched a video by the Young Turks, the home of the revolution. If you'd like to get the full show, come join us and become a member. tytnetwork.com/join.